All right. I think. Oh, wait. All right, we're live. Welcome everyone to Healed Whole Called the podcast. So this is the first time I'm doing this live. This is through StreamYard. So I'm Wendy Melrose, founder of Resilience Press, where we believe God redeems our stories and uses them to bring healing and purpose to others. This show is where we have real conversations about faith, resilience, and the calling that can come out of life's hardest seasons. So if you're joining us live, hello, say hello in the comments. I don't know where to find those guys if my life depends on it. So we'll figure it out. But today I'm honored to welcome Stephen Gloss. Stephen is an Army veteran, resilience speaker, and coach whose story reflects God's redemption. After deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and at one point couldn't walk. Through faith, discipline, and community support, he went from wheelchair to completing 3 full Ironman triathlons. Today, he helps others build resilience and lives rooted in Christ. So, Stephen, we're so glad you're here with us today. I would love for you to say hello to those and tell us where you're meeting us from.
Yes, thank you so much, Wendy. It's an honor and privilege to be on your show, especially to be the first sort of like guinea pig in this live format. So saying hello to the live world right now. But no, I'm calling out of Ocala, Florida right now, so based out of Central Florida. And then, like I said, I'm just so thrilled and honored to be a guest on your show. This is great.
You're so welcome. So I'd love to jump in, and if someone were to meet you today, what are 2 to 3 moments that shaped the journey that brought you here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would say like the 2 like prime catalysts for really the story of resilience that I've lived and I continue to live on a daily basis. The first obviously relates to like the moment that I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and like the story that kind of like transpired is I had gotten out of the military. I'd just come back from a deployment from Afghanistan, and I'd finished my master's degree in business, and I found this what I thought was going to be like my on top of the mountain, like this is my dream job. I was working with an engineering firm out of Southern California. I was this hybrid. I was a drone pilot in the military. So I was this sort of like this hybrid drone pilot / drone salesman. And so we got to do this really cool project where we went to Japan and we were doing basically a drone demonstration of this new up and coming technology of this new drone that we had built and getting to fly the drone for the Japanese government. And so like really high stakes, high profile operation. And so as the drone is flying, I noticed my left foot just like it goes numb. And so it's not just to the point where like it's like it feels like the tingling, like I fell asleep, like it disappeared. It's just like my foot was gone. And so I'm just there like kind of like stomping my foot trying to wake it up and nothing. So I didn't really think too much of it. Like even though it continued to linger, it didn't go away. I just thought my body was doing something weird. It wasn't until I made it home from the trip that numbness started to go all over my body. And it got to a point where I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't walk. I started losing control of my batter and blouse. I started losing my vision going blurry, even going dark at times. I was having all these weird symptoms, tremoring, trouble swallowing, even like seizures. And so it was very easy for doctors to throw me in an MRI machine. And they told me my brain was, quote unquote, lit up like a Christmas tree. Like I had lesions everywhere. And it was obvious that I had multiple sclerosis. And so I remember the appointment that day where I can't walk. I'm sitting down and my neurologist just looks at me and you can tell he's very uncomfortable, doesn't want to say it. And he's like, I have no other way to tell you this, but you have multiple sclerosis. And that was a moment for me. I'm not sure if it's something weird about me. Maybe I'm a psycho. Maybe it awakened something in me, but I actually got really motivated. So much so that I looked him straight in the eyes and I said, bring it on. and because there was something awakened in me that somehow, some way, I didn't know what the end result was going to look like. And at that point, I had no dreams, no visions of ever doing an Ironman triathlon. Like that wasn't even in my realm of like cognition. Like I couldn't even like associate that as being even a possibility. But what I could see is that somehow, some way, God was going to carry me through this. I didn't know what that was going to look like, but I know that God could use this story, use this burden as a way to perhaps motivate, uplift, and inspire other people. And so I got to work. I started doing the research. I started going to the gym, even when it felt impossible. Thanks to modern medicine, I was able to stabilize, able to get the disease under control, and then really leaning into my faith and just walking as much as I could day by day with God, trying to figure out what does a pathway forward look like. And so really the second moment for me that put me on this trajectory of to where today I'm a resilience coach. I do resilience trainings and workshops for organizations. What really set me on this pathway is a fateful, and I see this, we all like have these moments in our lives where it's like undeniable that God's hands, his fingerprints are all over it. Well, I had a moment like this when I was going to the VA hospital that was local to me when I lived in Pennsylvania at the Lebanon VA. And it was my first time meeting this doctor. He was a chiropractor. And so the VA was providing me chiropractic services, which I was super thankful for. At that point in time, I'd elevated myself from going from the wheelchair to a walker, and now I was using a cane. But I had a very unorthodox posture, and so that was causing me some back issues. So I remember walking into his office that day, and I'm hobbling. My left foot is just like dragging along, and I'm stubborn, so I refuse to get back into the wheelchair. So I'm exasperated, and I sit down in front of him, and he just kind of looks at me and puts his hand like on his chin, and he just says, "I want to help you." And I was like, "Well, I mean, that's what I'm here for. I'm here for you to adjust my back, relieve some pain." He's like, "No. He's like, "I want to help you, like really help you." And I said, "Okay, well, what do you got?" He's just like, "I'm afraid to say it though. I'm not sure if I should." And I was like, "What? Like, what are you trying to get at? Like, you can tell me anything. Like at this point, I'm all ears, open to all options." And he's like, "All right. Have you ever heard of an Iron Man?"
Oh my gosh.
And for some reason, he saw something in me I couldn't see in myself. I couldn't paint that vision for myself. I'm barely walking, hobbling with a cane, yet he saw an Iron Man walking into the office.
Wow.
And it's sort of like when Gideon was approached by the angel and he couldn't see himself. He was just this meek, humble, lowly, weak, pathetic man who basically had no potential. And the angel greets him, "Hello, mighty warrior."
Right.
and that sort of casted the vision. And it's as crazy as it sounds, that his belief in me, it motivated, it awoken the next level of my journey, of who I was going to become. And so not really knowing how to swim, like I knew how to tread water, but I didn't know how to do long, like an Ironman. Like it's like, for those that don't know, it's a 2.4 mile swim, a 112-mile bike ride, and a 26.2 a full distance marathon run back to back to back. And so I not knowing barely how to swim, I didn't have my own bike, I didn't have a bicycle, and I was using a cane to walk. That sounds crazy. I went home that evening and I went online and I registered for an Ironman. I signed up that evening. And I didn't know how it was going to happen. I in some ways, I almost I felt delusional. Like there's no way this could happen. But because someone else believed in me, it gave me the courage to believe in myself.
Sure.
And it really boils down to, once you have that seed of belief, it's like the mustard seed, right? All you need is just a little bit of faith, and God will start to take care of the rest. And that's what started to happen, is I started to gain function back at a rapid rate, to the point where that belief allowed me to start walking normal, to start jogging. And then from there, basically I was off to the races. I got in touch with an incredible swimming coach. I got a stationary trainer on a bicycle that allowed me to gain my balance. And then all of a sudden I was riding my bike, and everything started coming together. Was I dealing with symptoms? Yes. Was it easy? No. Did I want to give up multiple times? Absolutely. But day by day, I started just not only growing in my physical abilities, but also growing in my faith that God was leading me somewhere. And about, unfortunately, right around this time is when COVID happened. So it
Okay.
kind of like threw a thorn, like a whole monkey wrench in the whole like timeline of me doing my first Ironman.
Mhm.
But thankfully, the Ironman organization they introduced like a virtual series. So I actually did my first Ironman race was canceled, but they sanctioned basically like a virtual Ironman event where I did my first Ironman by myself. I just basically created my own course,
Hmm.
and it was on October 10th, 2020, that I actually became an Ironman. And
Wow.
so I remember that moment was just it's overwhelming, just emotions of just like where I had come from to where I had gotten to.
Hmm.
And I recognized that in that moment, it wasn't necessarily about anything that I had done, but more so like what God was doing through me.
Hmm.
And so I'd love to maybe put a pause there to see if you like have any follow-up questions or like anything you
Well,
wanted to dig into.
but it's super fascinating. I personally have family members who have done the Ironman one. I think he's been Ironman three times and one after a very serious accident. And then the other two, I don't know how many they've done. So it's very inspiring. It's like, oh, and like, and then after listening to your story, I'm like, should I add myself to that? I'm like, no, 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 no. But I mean, who knows what God tells me to do? If he after we hang up here and we're done with this stream, and he's like, "And you shall be an Iron Man too," like, please don't. But it's super fascinating news. So when did you do the other two?
So yeah, I did the other two. So it was amazing. I sat down, after I had finished that Ironman, and I had another follow-up appointment with that chiropractor. I sat down with him, and he was just like, it was such a moment of a celebration and victory. And then he looked at me, and he's like, there's going to be some people that are going to tell you that Ironman didn't count
Oh, sure.
because it wasn't quote unquote real. He's like,
Uh-huh.
maybe you should do a real one, like an actual like real event. And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like at that point in time, I was like, let's just go. So I signed up for Ironman Maryland and did that one in 2021. And
Okay.
I actually got, I think, more emotional crossing that finish line than I did my first one because there it an Ironman is just an incredible experience in that like it's the environment. It's like it's all the people, and it's like I finally got to have that quote unquote like finish line
Mhm.
moment.
Because there's
Like
a crowd on both.
after like 16 and a half hours of struggle, toil, and hardship. What I love about the Ironman, it's actually like a little microcosm of like our spiritual journey, our walk
Mhm.
in faith,
Mhm.
and that like all the hardships, all the battles, the transitions we go through from like where it's like it's almost like an analogy to like life. Like in the beginning, you're just swimming, right? And you can't walk, and you basically have a sense of buoyancy. Like you have something that's like a current that's helping you move along. And then you
Mhm.
get to the bicycle, and you basically, as we grow in faith and like as we start to learn to how to like navigate the journey, we have like a vehicle, right? A vehicle that's carrying us, that we have momentum. But then as we get towards like we increase the hardship and the journey gets harder, then all of a sudden we lose the vehicle. Now it's up to our legs to carry us. We've gone through enough hardship and resilience to understand that like we've got to find a way, muster the strength and courage to like use our own feet to just
Mhm.
keep moving forward. And so getting to that finish line moment, it's in some ways like my life, the journey like flashed before my eyes, like remembering where I was in a wheelchair to like,
Mhm.
and I'm got goosebumps all over my body just thinking about it, like getting to that moment at the red carpet and really tying that to like, what will it feel like one day? What will it be like when we reach the end of our lives?
Mhm.
When it's essentially that red carpet moment
Mhm.
when the angels are cheering us on, telling us, it's just a few more steps. It's just
Yeah.
a few more steps. And we cross the finish line and we get to enter into our rest.
Right.
And yeah, it's just like the Ironman finish line gives you just like a small taste of what that could maybe be like.
Mhm.
And even if it's just like 1 millionth of a percentage of what that feeling could be like, um, it's indescribable, and it's what makes all the pain, all the hardship, like every single moment worth it. Is to
Mhm.
get is to get to that moment.
So I would love for you to share on how now that you've been out sharing your story, right,
Mhm.
for a
Yeah.
couple years now, like how has that been impacting those that you have met?
Yeah, so I think it's been, and this is where I've a shift happened for me. It's sort of like if you were to meet like a gold medalist Olympian today, and
Mhm.
they told you, like, they showed you their medal and what they did, you'd be like, "Oh, that's really cool. That's inspiring," and then you would just go on about your business, go on about your day, because it would be very hard to relate to. Like, there's no way I'm gonna like be the fastest person in the world or the strongest person in the world. Like, that's really cool. I'm glad you did that. And as inspiring as my story is, I started to notice like that's essentially what my story, sort of the impact I could feel that it was having, that people were having a hard time like seeing the vision for themselves. And
Mhm.
so that's when I started to really get real about my story. And I'm happy to get a little vulnerable about my story here with you today. Is
Yeah.
that as incredible as the Ironman finish line is, and like those achievements are, and like the medals are cool, like all that stuff is fun. Um, behind behind every medal, behind every like finish line photo, there was a man who was suffering. There was a man that struggled with self-worth, and there was even a man who was ready to give up,
Mhm.
even suicidal.
Mhm.
And so I started to recognize that like my accomplishments, my achievements, that's not what mattered.
Mhm.
Like, I didn't have to become an Iron Man to have value.
Right.
I didn't have to get on a podium or to like even be this figurehead of inspiration to make a difference. And becoming more vulnerable about my story, about the struggle, about mental hardship, about how life isn't easy, and what you see on the outside is not always what's going on the inside. That's really what started to allow me to connect with others in a more real and vulnerable way. And it's
Mhm.
really what purposed me to start to become certified as a certified high performance coach, as well as a John Maxwell trainer, coach, and speaker, is that I recognize that the same principles of resilience, of
Mhm.
faith, of attitude and mindset that I use to quote unquote overcome my MS. I still struggle every day. Every day is a war. But to be able to navigate and to learn how to live with and thrive with this disease,
Mhm.
not everyone has MS. Not everyone has a chronic autoimmune disorder, but everyone at some point in time is going to face hardship, is going to
Mhm.
face adversity. It's going to go through a season in life where they're struggling.
Mhm.
And so I recognize that like the things that I experienced, my story, in the sense of the struggle with it, is what people can relate to. And
Mhm.
so to help people navigate that, to understand that the harder, the deeper the pain and the hardship, the greater the opportunity for growth and for resilience. And so it's helping people to reframe that paradigm, to put on a new lens and understand that the burdens that we carry can actually be the very thing that makes us strong. It's sort of like Paul when he had that thorn in the flesh, he asked God to take it away. And in the beginning, I asked God to take my multiple sclerosis away.
Mhm.
I was only 28 years old, my whole life ahead of me, and there I
Mhm.
was in a wheelchair. And I begged him to take it away, like I didn't understand why.
Mhm.
But now, on the other side of this journey of what's what God has done through me, I'm so thankful for it. It's actually, I see it as one of the greatest gifts God has ever given me. And I actually wouldn't change it. It's almost like it's a privilege to carry the burden, because this burden, this experience has allowed me to see life in a different way,
Mhm.
has allowed me to see the gift of every day. It's why my motto is embrace the day. To embrace the day is to embrace the good and the bad, but especially the bad, because it's the bad things in life, the hardships, that give us the greatest opportunity to learn lessons, to build resilience. And so it's helping people make sense of a world that just sometimes doesn't make sense. when there's hardship, when there's grief, when there's loss, when there's pain, when it seems like life's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
It's being able to share my story of hope and resilience and of faith, and understanding that even the worst things that happen to us can be the things that help us grow and help us connect and help us live life in a greater sense of vibrancy, in a greater sense of faith.
That is so beautiful. I mean, your story is good. It is true. I mean, everybody is going to go through some sort of something they're going to need to overcome and be resilient. There's not anyone that escapes that
Mm-hmm.
this side of heaven.
That's right.
And, you know, having someone mentor them is so important, because we think, oh, I'll just do this myself. Well, we
Right.
know the enemy separates us from the flock on purpose to what?
Isolate. Yeah, isolate and devour.
And
you got it.
You know, and I know that sounds really terrible, but it's true, because that's when our mind can become the most chaotic, and we think we're the only ones that's ever been through this. And regardless of whether it is the same, none of us, it'll ever be the same. Even if it is similar, it's never the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And but the point is that finding someone who believes in you before you believe in yourself, like that chiropractor for you, and now you are that to others.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where redemption comes in.
That's so perfect. And that's what's so amazing is, like, as like now a mindset resilience coach and trainer, when I see people, when I see the world, all I see is potential. I see, like, even in you, Wendy, it's funny, you say, like, you know, is this a sign or a signal? Like, am I supposed to do an Ironman? Like, I see you as an Ironman already. Maybe like I can see that for you, right? And there's no limits. I don't see any limits on people.
Finish the Ironman, but I guess it doesn't matter. They would already be packing up. I think we lost the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what God has to do. I mean, there's a lot of healing that, you know, each of us has to do internally in order for us to do something that's so physical. And as you did too, because, you know, Ironman isn't just a physical endurance, it's a mind game.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously not having been there, but heard the stories, it's like you can psych yourself out and end up, you know, but you have to balance of physical and mental in order to be persistent in that entire journey.
Yeah. And we all have our own Ironman race to run. Like, not just like, of course, in the spiritual sense, like that's essentially what this race of life is. It's like, it's the greatest crucible in existence that we're all running. Right. And just like you said, we need support. We can't do this by ourselves. If you like, even when I did the Ironman, quote unquote, by myself, I had a swim coach there. I had my dad there. I had my family there. I had people, I had resources along the way, like being able to like have water, like critical needs. Like, had I literally just tried to do everything by myself, I would have failed. You need a support system. And not even like when I say everyone is an Ironman, it's not just a physical race. Sometimes a person's Ironman might be restoring a relationship. It might be navigating through the uncertainty of like getting laid off or a career change. It might be becoming a parent for the first time, of trying to step up and maybe overcome an addiction or overcome a setback or some sort of adversity or trial in life. Like, we all have our different races to run. And it's so critical to, like you said, to lean into community, to lean into faith, and find that support system.
That's awesome. So I'd love, before we wrap up, that you would say to someone listening right now who might be walking through a difficult season and wondering if their story still matters.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And I think this is where sometimes it really does require that level of blind faith and trust, that the only way sometimes for us to grow in faith is to be put in a situation where faith is our only option. Because it's easy to trust in God when you have your safety net, your security blankets. It's easy to have the trust that everything's going to work out just fine when you have these these safe veils in place to sort of catch you and sort of comfort you and like soften the blow, the plummet, and make things feel like it's under control. But sometimes the greatest way to build faith is to be put in a position where you don't have those options, where there is no safety net, where it feels like if you fall, it's over. That's it. And sometimes I always like to say sometimes that God is sort of like he's the God of like the last moment, like the last minute. He likes to come in like at the very last minute. It's sort of like when Abraham took his son up to sacrifice him at the very last second. God took him all the way to the point of like faith exercised to the extreme, just to step in at the last moment and provide a solution to save and rescue. And so if you're in a period of uncertainty, in a period of doubt and darkness, going through adversity, it's as hard as that might be, is just lean into that blind faith of trusting that even if God takes you to the moment where like all hope feels lost, that's the greatest opportunity he has to step in. And so just to have faith and hold on.
No, that's so beautiful. Well, I appreciate it, Stephen, for you sharing with your story with us today. Conversations like this remind us all that healing is possible, wholeness is possible, and that each of us has a calling on our lives. So thank you for being with us here today on Healed, Whole, and Called. Thank you again.
Embrace today. Thanks.